Shure SM58 or Sennheiser E835. These are both classic workhorse mics at a similar price, so picking the wrong one is less about money and more about fit. If you mostly sing live and need a mic that survives anything, one leans your way. If you record vocals, podcast, or want a bit more presence with less gain hassle, the other makes more sense. Let's break it down.
Vocal sound is where these two split most clearly, so let's start there. The SM58 has that mid-forward, slightly warm character that's been the live vocal standard for decades. It flatters voices that need a bit of body, smooths over harshness, and sits in a mix without fighting anything. The E835 goes the other direction. It has a gentle presence boost up top that makes vocals feel more articulate, more open right out of the gate. If you have a darker voice or you're tired of EQing brightness in, the Sennheiser does some of that work for you. There's an opinion floating around from a long-time gigging singer who switched and said the E835 sounded more open and detailed without changing his chain. That tracks.
The flip side, if your voice is already bright or sibilant, that presence boost can edge into harsh territory, and the SM58's smoother top end becomes the safer call. Honestly, neither one is better in absolute terms here. It depends on your voice. But for clarity and cut-through on most voices, the E835 has a slight edge. For warmth and forgiveness, the SM58.
Now, isolation. Both are cardioid dynamics, so both reject room noise and feedback far better than any condenser you'd put in an untreated room. On a loud stage, in a bedroom with a fan running, in a church with monitors blasting, either one keeps the focus on your voice. Where they differ, the SM58 is famously forgiving with off-axis sound. The rejection pattern is uniform and predictable, which is why every front-of-house engineer on the planet knows how to ring it out. The E835's pattern is also cardioid, but tends to be a touch tighter. And on plosives, the SM58's spherical grille and built-in pop filter handle P and B sounds a bit more gracefully. For feedback resistance on really hot stages, they're close enough that mic technique matters more than the badge. Real talk, this is a wash for most people. Gain and ease of use, this is where things tilt. The SM58 has a relatively low output, and if you're plugging into an entry-level USB interface for podcasting or streaming, you'll often crank the preamp near the top. That can introduce hiss. A lot of SM58 owners end up adding a cloud lifter or similar gain booster to fix it. The E835 runs noticeably hotter. Same interface, less gain needed, less noise floor to fight. There's a Reddit thread where live engineers describe the E835 as basically plug and play with cheap mixers, and that matches what most home users report. If you're running pro gear with strong preamps, this gap shrinks. If you're a beginner with a basic interface, the Sennheiser saves you a real headache.
Durability. Look, the SM58 is the mic that survives being dropped off stages, run over by road cases, used as a hammer, and still works. That reputation isn't marketing, it's 3 generations of working musicians confirming it. The E835 is also built like a tank. All metal construction, made in Germany, and the community reports years of gigging with no failures. Handling noise is low on both. The SM58's pneumatic shock mount is legendary. The E835's internal damping is genuinely competitive. Where the SM58 still wins on paper is the sheer scale of the data. Decades of evidence that these things just don't die. The E835 hasn't been around quite as long, but everything points to similar longevity. On warranty, Sennheiser actually offers a longer registered warranty on its Evolution wired line, which is worth knowing if you're risk-averse.
On use case fit, the SM58 leans hardest toward live singing, rehearsal rooms, and rugged touring duty, while the E835 stretches a bit more naturally into podcasting, streaming, and home recording, thanks to that hotter output and brighter top end. Both cover all of these, but each shines in a different lane.
Price and value. They sit in a similar range. The SM58 tends to hold its price firmly. It rarely sees deep discounts because demand is constant. The E835 dips more often on promotions and sometimes lands meaningfully cheaper, which is part of why it's gotten the SM58 alternative label. For what each delivers, neither is overpriced. The SM58 gives you the most universally accepted live mic on the planet. The E835 gives you more presence, more output, and often a bit better deal at checkout.
Here's the call. There's no single winner here, and I won't fake it. These two split by use case, and your setup decides which one comes home. If you mostly sing live and want the most forgiving, bomb-proof mic on the planet, get the SM58. It's the safer call for bright voices too. If you're podcasting, streaming, or recording at home with a basic interface, the E835 wins. More output, more presence, less gain hassle, no fluff. The E835 shows up more often on promotions, so if you're flexible, keep an eye on it. And you? Which one would you pick? Let me know in the comments. Both linked below with the current price.